maybe not. Good morning, everybody. How is it going? I've got technical problems here this morning. I think I'm being censored. I think that's what's going on. Censorship is real, it is everywhere. I mean, it is just beyond the beyond. If I could show you some of the weird things that have been going on with my technology, you would absolutely be amazed. It's just crazy. It's really crazy. Anyway, good morning to all. We'll get started in a couple of minutes here. I am not going to be playing this video for the entire time. Just give me a moment here while I get the technology sorted out, and I'll interrupt this here in a moment.
This is a fascinating conversation. Joining us now is a guy who knows real estate from the bottom up. Investor, made millions of dollars understanding market trends. Tens of thousands of people tune to him to find out what he has to say. His latest expertise, he's bottled this, pandemic investing. It's actually, I think, called pandemic investment. We welcome Jason Hartman. By the way, just to be completely honest, I've kind of become a fan. I've been watching his videos, seeing what he has to say, even listen to his podcast a little bit. I want to tackle two things with you, Jason. First is there a looming crisis? Number two, what will be the big trend that comes out of this? Let's start with the crisis first.
Rick, great question. It's good to be here. And the circumstances in some ways are very dire. And the question when it comes to real estate is what type of real estate and where? There are three basic types of real estate markets in the entire world: linear, cyclical, and hybrid markets. The cyclical markets, meaning the expensive markets around the country, South Florida, close to where I live, the west coast of the United States, the expensive northeastern markets, they are in for trouble, especially if they are high density markets. Because I predict, Rick, that there will be a mass migration away from high density markets to low density suburban markets. I think we are going to see a major rise, a resurgence in suburban living.
And I guess if I can fill in the rest of the enthymime here, two reasons. A, people can work from home because they don't want to be in elevators surrounded by other people.
Right.
And B, the new technology allows it to happen.
Right, and the interesting thing about that, Rick, is that the technology isn't that new. We've been able to do this for quite a while, as you know, but now everybody's been forced to use Skype and Zoom and GoToMeeting and all these tools. A crisis always pushes people. You know, necessity is the mother of invention, right? And now many more people, have been forced to work from home, and they realize they can do it. So the home is becoming the center of the universe, as it should be. The city is not as necessary as it used to be.
I was listening to your podcast over the weekend as I was driving from DC to Baltimore, and you were the most interesting thing to listen to at the time. And you kept saying
Thank you.
You kept saying something which was interesting. Well, there's no more sports. You kept saying, stay calm. The most important thing is stay calm. And yet, the things that you and I are talking about are not the kind of things that make people stay calm. How do you balance those two?
That's a great question. There are a lot of people suffering. This too will pass.
But will I lose my house? Will I lose my investments? Will I ever work again? These are the things people are thinking about. Maybe not you and I, but some of the folks watching us, Jace.
Understood. Unfortunately, we are galloping towards socialism. We are galloping toward a more centralized control of our lives. The government, the Federal Reserve are coming to the rescue. They have been bold, unbelievably bold in the amount of money they're pumping into the system. There will be more. This is an absolutely historic time.
Helicopter money.
Truly incredible what's happening. Helicopter money.
Helicopter money. It just keeps coming, and nobody knows where it's like magical money, right?
Yep. Hey, listen, when you have the reserve currency of the world and the biggest military in the world to make sure you keep it that way. You can pretty much do what you want. And I know everybody says the dollar will collapse and so forth. Right now, the dollar has gained a lot of strength because everybody around the world is sucking up dollars in order to fulfill obligations and to buy commodities like gold. We are in uncharted territory. It's a very interesting time.
So it's almost like we're in a butt kicking contest and everybody else is out of two legs, but at least we still have one, right?
Yeah, good point. It's not that I agree philosophically with any of the stuff that's going on, as I didn't during the last crisis. But the U.S. is the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry, as the saying goes.
Well said. You're a great guest, Jason. Thanks so much. We appreciate having you on.
My name is Jeremy. I'm a big supporter of Jason Hartman and grateful to Jason for a lot of what I've learned over the last 4 years. I can attest to him. We've had some good success using the strategies, being a little more conservative on some of the decisions. So we've purchased a couple of properties through the Creating Wealth Network, through Jason's network. I've done some new construction stuff on the side as well. And just really feel like I owe a lot to Jason and the team for the education part, and sometimes the motivation too, to just go ahead and jump in and get active and do things. You learn a lot more by doing than by learning by podcast or any other way. I've attended several seminars and I've enjoyed all of those. Attended the mastermind group once and really enjoyed that as well. Big supporter, grateful to Jason again. Thanks.
We've been listening to Jason's podcast for a couple years now, and the main reason we came is to determine which market we want to buy next. It's been really helpful to talk to some of the various people in different areas, to network. We've learned some good information about taxes and loans, and I definitely recommend it and would for sure come back.
Hi, my name is Hayato Negishi. I'm from New York City, and it's been a great seminar, been a great 2 days. What I've learned over here that I did not know about are land contracts. I know about traditional income, cash flow, property investing, but land contracts are something totally new, and I wanted to thank Jason and his team for bringing it to the table here, and hopefully I can have other alternative options to invest. Thank you.
Well, I'm a longtime listener to the podcast, of course, and I like the approach to the business. I love the website that Jason Hartman has, and we're definitely looking to extend our real estate education. Of course, that's my main piece, and we're looking to invest in properties, start taking action, and get some properties working for my post-federal government career. Just in general, looking at the talking to the fellow investors here and talking to Jason, a lot of what Jason has talked about, I've heard on his own podcast or whatever. But I think it's fascinating. I'm furiously scribbling notes in my notebook as the days go on here. I listen. Want to learn lessons. I want to learn how to avoid the pain of the mistakes in real estate, and the ways that you can invest and make a good long-term income.
Today, we talked about commandment number 3 last time, thou shalt maintain control, be a direct investor. We talked about the importance of that. Today, let's go on and let's talk about commandment number 4, okay? Now, commandment number 4 is something that's kind of affiliated with the crooks on Wall Street, right? So I always say Wall Street is the modern version of organized crime, but they do have some very good things. There's some obviously extremely brilliant people on Wall Street, the quants, right? The people that really, really know their stuff. Literally rocket scientists, okay? If you saw the movie Margin Call, which is a great movie, by the way, the guy says, he was being asked by one of his superiors, he says, hey kid, this brilliant kid is in there analyzing the financial pools and all this kind of stuff. And he says, hey, what's your major? What's your background? And he says, well, I went to college to be a rocket scientist. Quite literally, but you end up on Wall Street because that's where the money is, right? And so we see all of this kind of stuff, right? But one of the things Wall Street does pretty well is they utilize the art and science of financial planning. Now, financial planning in and of itself is a fantastic art and science, right? When you invest in something, before you get started as an investor, or if you're already moving along, maybe you want to just take a step back and look at the big picture, right? Look at the big picture. And in doing that, when it comes to financial planning,
you need to consider your investment goals, your risk tolerance. You know, there are some people that are very risk averse, very conservative. Well, folks, it seems that there is a problem with the broadcast. Why are we not surprised? I'm now doing this from my phone. I wonder if this is another example of big tech censorship. So I'm going to reboot and try to enter again. Thank you for bearing with me. This is just unbelievable. I have had so many strange technical problems lately. They are just completely unexplainable. So we've got some good questions coming in, and thank you for that. So let's see here. I don't know what I can really do on the mobile device here, but I will attempt to. Unbelievable. Okay, well, here's the thing we ought to do for sure. Come on the broadcast. So I am going to put on the screen. That's what you do if you want to come on and join me on camera. And that I can certainly do from the phone here. So that's fine as I try and get back onto the computer. First time this has happened, and it's the first time we had election coverage. Isn't that a handy coincidence? Handy coincidence, I tell you, really handy coincidence. So computer is rebooting. We'll see if we can get back on. But if you text JH Live, it's right on your screen, text JH Live to 949-288-2940. We can get you on the show. And I'd love to hear some listener comments and have you on to share your thoughts about these absolutely crazy times we're in. So let me just try and get things working here on the computer. And we'll see if we can give this another try. just such a coincidence that this would happen during this. Yeah. So a lot of comments coming in. Yeah, socialism for the rich, Kevin. I agree with you there. Um, Look at the deficit spending. Well, yeah, there's a whole bunch of different reasons, Kevin, than Obama. I mean, Obama didn't have a pandemic to deal with. So, not the same environment for sure. Not the same environment. Yep. I don't know. I hope Ramin says, did YouTube purge me? Let's see. I hope not. We're all beholden to our big tech masters, aren't we? If we say something they don't like, we're out. We're out. Yep, that's the way it goes. Okay, we're coming back up on the main computer. See if we can get things to work again. But folks, come on and join me. Come on camera and join me. I don't see any of you in the waiting room here. But would I see that? I haven't done it from my phone before, so the question is, would I even see it? Okay. Let's see if we can get back online on the computer again. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Big tech censorship. Oh, sorry about that. There you see me twice. Okay, we are back in business. We're in business with media censorship and all. So I want to get to some of your questions, but folks, I want to get some man on the street here, get some interviews with you all. So come on and join me. All you need to do is text to that number and we will show you. Okay, so Bill says wasted votes. Okay, let's get this work. Okay, we got Mitch coming on here. Hey, Mitch, how you doing? Okay, I'm going to bring you in. We have our first guest. Mitch.
Hello, Jason. How's it going? Can you hear me?
Good. Good. Yes, we can definitely hear you. You are loud and clear. So, first off, let me just ask you: do you think the election was fair? Do you think the winner should be called yet, or did the media just appoint the new president?
Well, I think you know the answer to that, but to reiterate with my own take on it, I think that this is part of the plans that have been in place for many, many months at this point. This is not a new act, a new idea. This is exactly what the Democrats have planned. They are executing their plan exactly as they had intended. They knew in advance that this was going to be a very close race. We knew in advance that all of the efforts to bring people out of the woodwork to vote are folks who may be dead or may just not care or whatever. And those folks were shuffled into voting booths, and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of ballots were sent out without any confirmation of identity. So this is not completely expected, and it's going to take some time. Yes, Biden will assume. I assume that he will assume the presidency, but in a relatively, short period of time, maybe 2 to 6 weeks, we will get real evidence of evidence tampering. Then I have no idea what's going to happen.
So at that time, do you think it'll be too late? I mean, the election isn't really certified until mid-December, I believe. And it's just amazing that, the media just calls it like that. And I think that's an attempt to sort of demoralize the other side and to get everyone to start accepting it in advance, right?
Exactly. I think that the president is still the president. They have a term that they call lame duck, but the bottom line is the president is still the president.
Yeah, so this is what people said were concerned about. So for whatever it's worth, here's the way the voting kind of went down. And what's interesting is that, if you just use sort of common sense, regardless of what side you're on, I mean, Trump was working 19-hour days. He had huge rallies. Um, there was this, just your brain would just tell you that there was a ton of support out there, right? Um, and Biden wasn't working at all. He was hardly campaigning at all. I mean, it was
Right.
amazing. It was like,
Yep.
he just sort of knew what was going to happen in advance. And when you look at the first one on the chart, right? Um, 82% voted based on the economy, and those votes went to Trump. Okay.
Yep.
Now, Biden will pick up the votes on this faulty premise of racial inequality, which I think is, really been perpetuated by the Democrats. I think the Democrat Party has really hurt racial inequality. I mean, Obama, the great uniter he was supposed to be, that didn't happen whatsoever. It kind of went the reverse way. Coronavirus, sort of easy to be critical of the guy in office, the man in the arena, if you will. We never had to see Biden how he would have handled COVID. Crime and safety, they thought Trump was better. Healthcare, everybody wants freebies, so Biden is going to win on that, or Democrats going to win on that. But yeah, it's just it's just hard to sort of rationalize what happened there. But folks, come on, let's hear from you. Come on and join Mitch and I. Okay, so good morning from Seattle. Okay, Seattle, boy, that's got to be they got to be celebrating in the streets in Seattle right now, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Ultimate Bargains gives the cool sign. And thank you, Chris. And good morning, Robert. Okay, and Kevin wants Trump to go to prison. Now, what would he go to prison for, Kevin? I'm curious. What exactly would it be? Russiagate? Where's the evidence on that one? Yeah, I'd like to see what Trump would go to prison for. Yeah, on what charge? Someone's asking you. Okay, so I can't get a picture of housing and the forbearance, PPP, welfare programs. And well, Kevin, the other thing is, will they end? I mean, certainly under a Democratic administration, there's going to be a lot more handouts and deficit spending and stimulus than there would be under a Republican. That's just sort of intuitive, right? Same charge. I got Hillary. Yeah, well, Hillary actually is a criminal. I don't know. Trump, I think, is just a shrewd businessman, but we'll see. Okay, so remember when you voted, Ultimate Bargain says, remember when you voted for the politicians who did this to you, they caused this debacle, or they were too weak to stop it. Either way, throw out the rascals. Yeah, well, they're all rascals. Okay, Kevin. Yeah, it's a done deal. I don't think it's a done deal yet, but we will see. Nobody really studies history anymore, sadly. But remember when the media called the race for Dewey and Truman actually won? Well, I wasn't alive then, but I do study history. So, and all of the newspapers said, that Truman lost, Dewey won, and the complete opposite happened. So, this is simply a media call. It's the AP who called it. This is not an official at all whatsoever. This is simply a media call, calling the election, right? Okay, so Kevin, I can't let you take over the whole conversation here. I got a million other comments and questions. Trump lost according to the media. I vote for transparency. Let's make sure the process is good. And then congrats to President Harris. Yeah, because Biden is certainly a puppet. And,
That's right.
That President Harris, if Biden is really the winner, then President Harris would be president probably in a few months, because I think Biden would need to step down. Mitch, feel free to chime in on any of these. I'm just grabbing through some questions before some people join us here. I know we do have some people coming on to join us as well.
So I have one comment about this whole issue of transparency. I am shocked that more people are not interested in making sure that this election is fair. I understand that there are a lot of Democrats who don't care whether it's fair or not. They care because they got their candidate in office, and they don't care hook or crook that it was done that way.
No, there's sort of
We
no sense of honor anymore, honoring the
exactly.
process, honoring the institution. It's just whoever wins wins, take the money and run. That's the attitude, and sadly, that's the attitude in all too many parts of life nowadays. Certainly in business, sadly, that's the way. Do you remember, like, in looking at this fiasco, Mitch? I was kind of thinking about, how in the old days when there was a duo, right? They would, there would be this like sense of honor. Yeah, someone's going to die at the end, right? But there was
Mhm.
a sense of honor of the rules of the process. That's totally gone, isn't it?
It is completely, and I'm surprised because this is an isolated incident. This is, in a long stream of a country's history, 4 years is not necessarily a big deal. Now, I realize that this president and has been in this environment, this year has been so polarizing for so many people. But the bottom line is we're going to have more elections. And if we don't get this fixed now, we are never going to have a true democracy because the president will be selected by a bunch of cheaters and random computer programs that delete and change votes. I mean, who wants that really? Nobody on either side wants that, yet nobody seems to be focused on that other than the Republicans.
Yeah. It's true, but they would certainly be saying the opposite if it went the other way. If the media had declared Trump the winner, all the Dems would be saying, "Oh, the Republicans cheated." By the way, I want to welcome my friend Julia, fellow real estate investor. You are on, Julia. Say
Hi,
hello.
everyone.
Hey,
Hello. How's
get a
everybody?
little closer to your microphone if you would.
I have headphones, so
Okay.
there we
Just
go.
hold
Can
them
you hear me
hold the
better?
mic closer. Hold the mic closer to your mouth if you would.
All right.
And speak up. And then we've got Robert coming on as well. Robert, I can't really see you, so I'm going to wait till you get situated there and your sound is ready. But thanks for joining us, Julia.
Hey, how are you? You've
Well,
been trying to get me on my radio show, so I thought I'll join you. I've been seeing your live broadcast, so here I am.
so what's your take on the election? Do you think it was fair or do you think it was unfair?
Uh, you know what? I'm not a politician, so I'm a business person first and foremost. So as a business person, we're going to try to do we're going to try to go with the flow, with the river, and try to make the best of it, no matter which way it goes. But actually, I came on the show just to tell you and your listeners that in the last year or so, and most of our properties are in suburbia, in Savannah, Georgia, and Macon. Also, I just bought a house in Atlanta, also in suburbia. The market prices of suburbia right now are skyrocketing. At least,
Yeah.
from what I'm seeing, it's crazy because I'm actually trying to buy more properties right now, and the prices just went up like 40-50% in my area. So, I mean, for if you have business people, not talking politics right now, but if you're talking business right now with pandemic and everything, suburbia is a place to buy. I mean, I
Yeah.
should have done it
Okay. So
yesterday.
so you came on to tell me my prediction was right.
Yes.
That about the mass migration to suburban real estate,
Absolutely.
right?
It is absolutely. And the other thing is, as you know, a lot of my rentals were vacation rentals. People that are renting my places right now are long-term workers, workers that are renting my places for 2, 3 months at a time, seasonal workers, but they're paying short-term vacation rental prices. So it's amazing for me, obviously, because I'm making 4 times as much rent as I would be on long-term rentals. And yeah, people are moving. People are moving a lot right now, and everything is booked. Everything's
E- e-
full. I mean,
Everybody's repositioning their lives to get out
yeah,
of these terribly run Democrat cities that are just an
yeah.
epic disaster. So, Julia, what do you think about the possibility if Biden really is the winner? He wants to kill the 1031 tax deferred exchange. He wants to do a $15,000 housing credit for first time buyers. He wants to raise taxes. What do you think about any of this stuff? And also, I'll just throw out another one. Just grab whichever bite you want. But the moratoriums on foreclosures. I know you do a lot of tax liens and tax deeds. tax
Mhm.
sale business. How has that affected the market? But 1031 exchange, I think that's a terrible idea. I also think the $15,000 credit is ultimately a terrible idea too, because that just perverts the
Yeah.
market. But thoughts?
Well, I mean, my thought on everything is, if you're an investor in this time, you better get educated. I'm not sure how much as an investor we have control over this if he elects it and does those changes, but get educated and figure out some workarounds. That's all I can say. I mean, I go with the flow. I don't go with the flow. Whatever comes out, I'll figure out a way around that. There's
Yeah.
ways to minimize capital gains taxes without 1031 exchanges, and we'd have to get smarter as real estate investors.
Also, Biden has stated that he wants to raise the capital gains rate or make it the same as the ordinary income rate. All of this stuff ostensibly is saying that it favors, wealthy people and, helps them stay wealthy, which I agree it does. But
Mhm.
that's a bad thing, according to the left side of the political aisle. Kevin is here with us. Now, Kevin, let me unmute you because there was some noise when you were coming in, but say hello. And how are you doing? Where are you located?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How you doing?
Good, good. Where are you located?
I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Oh, great place. I lived there for 6 years. Love it there. Good stuff.
Yeah, I
So,
think
Kevin, I think you are anti-Trump. Would that be a fair statement?
kind of anti anybody political.
Okay.
I don't think, being an average person, I don't think that we can really have any influence on either the broader economy, any kind of political. Yeah, I think they're all kind of in the same realm, just at very small differences. So,
Mhm.
I did vote for Trump 2016. I thought he ran on a lot of great premises. I don't think he followed through on a lot of them. So he wanted to raise rates. He wanted to cut spending. And my problem with Trump was that he went from inheriting, I think, $500 billion annual deficits to rocketing it to 1.4 trillion prior to COVID. So, like I said, they're all kind of different shades of gray for me
Yeah.
personally.
Yeah, well, I definitely agree with you there. It's that the left has moved further to the left, and the right has moved further to the left. So,
Yeah.
it's not like it used to be when there used to be a much clearer difference. And I think that the reason is that Bill Bonner, who's been on my show many times, he's the founder of Agora Financial, and really a bright guy. He's written a bunch of great books. He's one of my favorite financial writers. He made this statement I thought was interesting, and he compares it to a sailboat, and in a sailboat, it lists to one side or the other, and he said politics always lists to the left. Because when you have a country that has resources, that has money, the tendency is just give out treats. That's how you're going to win elections, right? And so you always move to the left of the spectrum. That's just the way it works until you go broke and there's a revolution, and then things reset completely. And there is a lot of talk, and we got to do a whole show on this sometime about the Great Reset, because that's coming. Has anybody been thinking about that, Mitch? I bet you have. You've probably been thinking about the reset, and with the comments at the World Economic Forum in Davos recently, they're just out in the in the open about this. This is not like any big secret plan anymore.
Absolutely. And I've been doing my best to diversify my investments. I've been making arrangements to keep my family and myself safe.
Your sound is breaking up terribly. Can you fix that at all? And we'll have you come back on and comment about that. Okay, I'm just going to mute you for a second. Okay.
No, I think the economic reset's in the works. I don't think the Fed's going to allow this crisis to go. They're never going to let a crisis go before they get something. So that economic reset is already in the cards to some degree. Kind of my thesis this entire process is that when they get something like this handed to them, they're going to be able to use that to their advantage. So I think they're exploding a bubble right now on purpose. I think that there's going to be a collateral, or the commercial mortgage-backed securities are going to start to collapse.
Yeah,
which is
I
going
agree with
to,
you, by the way.
we have all those derivatives associated with those. And I think that that's just going to be the cascade. It's that whole thing where they say history never repeats, but it rhymes. I think we're going to get a similar thing to 2008. And that's kind of what I'm banking on at this point, that's something like that to that effect is going to happen, especially now that we have kind of a transition of power again. I think there's a lot of things that lean that way. So that's been my theory for some time. It's funny, Jason, because we've had conversations just kind of in the chats before about kind of I've been saying real. I used to work for New Century Mortgage, so featured in The Big Short.
That was like ground zero in Orange
Yeah.
County, the mortgage meltdown back in 2006, 7 or so, right?
Yeah, and in the movie they show the top floor of New Century, which is where I actually interviewed. So it's kind of funny. But
Was
I kind
that
of
in
had
The Big Short?
Well, yeah.
that the
If you
movie?
look in The Big Short, they show a building, and the top story is where I actually interviewed when I was coming out of college. So, but anyway, I've been saying
So,
that
Kevin, I have a question
Okay.
for you.
Sure.
What does the Great Reset look like? And this question also for Mitch, Julie. I don't know if you follow this stuff, but feel free to chime in on it. But I think this time that reset is much handier and easier with a digital currency, and I think that's just going to be a key part of doing this. Because that just makes it so much easier to control the world population. And
Absolutely.
first that'll come in the currency of various countries. There will be a digital dollar, there'll be a digital yen, a digital euro, a digital yuan, various pesos will be digitized, all of that stuff. But then it consolidates. Maybe it consolidates first regionally, like the euro, the Amero, that kind of concept, but then global. And when you have that, when you have a digital global fiat currency, it is absolute checkmate over the entire human race. There is nothing that anybody can do, to have any degree of like spending freedom or anything. I mean, that's checkmate. Thoughts on what the reset looks like? Mitch, Kevin, Julia, anybody?
Sure, I'll take a stab at it. First of all, this whole discussion of the deficit goes away because all of a sudden we will have something called MMT. MMT, as you know, is modern monetary policy. Can you hear me okay now, Jason?
No, it's not very good. The sound is just not good. If you could also be closer to your microphone, that would help. But
Wearing
I'll,
headbands.
yeah, just try and fix that. Kevin, do you want to comment?
No, I think it's 100% in the cards. I mean, that's what they're looking for, is that control. And I know that that's coming. I'm hoping we don't go, because I think China right now has something similar, and they also have the social credit, which is more frustrating for me to hear.
Oh, that is
basically,
so dangerous. The social scoring that they've got going is super scary.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's a real thing. So, and that's something they do today. I just hope we don't go that route.
Yeah, yeah. And by the way, if anybody wants to jump in on any of the comments or questions, feel free to. I'm just going to kind of display them since we may not have time to actually read them all and discuss them, but they're just free game. Goslings, I'm glad you like the show and you're joining us every Sunday. Ultimate bargains. Biden got rich by selling his influence. Standard politician. Nothing new about that. Yeah, they all do it. Trump got rich by selling to. Oh, so that's Kevin. There you go. So there you go. Okay, so we're moving on here, and you can comment on that directly. Mitch, how's your sound
Jason,
quality, you think? Yeah.
Jason, I do have a question for you. So, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, if the sound quality's not better, I'm gonna log off and log back on.
Yeah. Go ahead and try that. I'll have you
Okay.
back in. Okay.
Okay.
Kevin, go ahead.
Well, and so the biggest thing for me from a real estate perspective, Jason, and I feel so privileged to be able to talk to you because I know you're a big name. So it's like funny that we actually get to interact before you blow up in terms of popupery. But
I hope
the
that
biggest
happens.
thing,
If I'm
no,
not
I think it
censored.
will. No, I absolutely think it will. So my biggest thing is that we're going to have a paradigm change in the fact that we don't have any lower to go on rates. And so, as you're aware, since the 1980s, rates have fallen for a long period of time. And so that's obviously kind of juiced anything related to that's debt service, right? And we might go into that economic reset and that whole conversation at a later time, but kind of from a real estate perspective, that's my concern, is that we've had this period of time where housing has naturally gone up strictly due to the lowering rates. And so I think when I did my own research, and if you look, everything in America is payment based, right? It's not based upon how much money you have, it's whether or not you can afford a monthly payment.
Right. So the interest rate is a huge way to manipulate the price and the value and the market and everything, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And so my concern is that if you look at the numbers based on the payment, I think it's 350% of the 380% of the value change in home prices has been strictly related to rate. And so now that paradigm shift is kind of going towards, we're kind of at that zero bound. I mean, what do you think that has in store for the housing market? I think there's a lot of people that are rushing in for the prices rocket higher. However, with that paradigm shift, kind of how do you think that's going to play into the housing market long term? I know, and let me clarify. You always correct me, which is 100% correct. Where you guys sell property is in the linear market. So I'm a huge George Gammon fan, as you can probably hear from a lot of my comment or my kind of theories here. But I know that you sell in very linear markets, so maybe not applicable as much as like a Las Vegas or a Phoenix. But kind of how do you see that interest rate paradigm shift playing out over the long term?
Yeah, so I think they probably keep interest rates low for a long, long time, and it doesn't make any sense economically, but it's a situation of being able to defy gravity and just have these artificially low rates for a long time, as long as they want to. And I don't think anybody's going to want the bad news on their watch, whether it be Biden, Trump, the next person, Harris, Ivanka, whoever, right? It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to want the bad news on their watch, so they're always going to try and manipulate it. The time it changes is when the world just rejects the U.S. as the reserve currency, but I don't know that that's going to happen anytime in our lifetime. I don't know that it can. I think the U.S. can keep the game going for a long time. Let me bring Julia in on that, though. Julia, on the interest rate thing, you were talking about the prices in suburbia going up so much. And you quoted some incredible stats. Like, I can't believe prices actually went up that much. We haven't seen that. But tell us about the price increases and what people are saying to you about interest rates and so forth. Yeah, is she frozen too? I think she's frozen.
I think Julia said I have to leave, but still listening.
Oh, okay. Well, she's still there. So yeah, Naresh, go ahead. This is Naresh, everybody. Do you want to take that question? You definitely deal with investors all the time.
Yeah, well, a couple of things regarding interest rates, and I know you've touched on this quite a bit. Lowest in world history. They've never.
Can you hold the microphone up? Hold the microphone to your mouth.
Yeah. Lowest in U.S. history, but regarding the election, and I'd love to get your take on this, Jason. But we're working on a refinance right now.
Naresh, you got to hold the mic closer to your mouth.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna have to.
You're very soft.
I'll have to come back in a minute. I'll have to change the volume, adjust the volume.
This just is not easy here, folks, is it? Okay, Kevin, back to you. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. And I'm just trying to theorize. Kind of, I'm looking to purchase some property, maybe in Little Rock. You've kind of steered me away from from around the colleges, because that's kind of where I was looking. I mean, especially here in Arizona, you touch a college property, it's orders of magnitude more expensive than the surrounding areas.
And you know what? Like in Tempe, you're talking about, right?
No, yeah, that would be a place. I mean, I feel like that ship has long sailed in Tempe. Yeah. Very expensive properties there, but in Little Rock, I think which is one of your target markets. I think there's a lot of opportunity just in kind of my initial research.
Little Rock, you look at. We really like it, but I think the whole college government debt enslavement complex is being disrupted massively by by COVID, and now everybody knows that they don't need to go to a physical school anymore. whether they want it or not. And I don't think these universities are going to have the kind of money they've had over the past. So I think their whole business model has really, really been disrupted. And I think that is wonderful news because they've been
Oh,
ripping
absolutely.
off for years. So that disrupts the college real estate market, which, I've liked. And many years ago, we did do a lot of business in those college markets, in Columbia, South Carolina, in Bluffton, South Carolina. And it was pretty good at the time. But I don't think that model is going to last anymore. Those prices now will reflect closer to normal market prices, so they won't be so out of whack. It won't be like, oh, suddenly you're in Tempe near the college, and the price is 40% higher than it was, just in regular Phoenix, right, or
Yeah.
further in Tempe. So yeah.
What's your and this is probably just like real estate 101. My wife and I are potentially I don't know if you're familiar with Fountain Hills at all, but we're looking to buy some land
Yeah.
out in Fountain Hills. Is kind of going through the whole build process. Is that just a total, are we kind of walking into a nightmare? Any kind of
Listen, building a house is like an easy way to get a divorce. Okay.
yeah.
It is. It is a stressful experience. You can probably assume a very high likelihood that there will be some litigation comes out of it.
Yeah.
Because who ever says anything good about their contractor, right?
Yeah.
It's just a very tough process. There are always cost overruns, change orders. It is a mega hassle. And
Yeah.
just ask anyone who's remodeled a house or built a house. I mean, look, you can do it. You'll get exactly what you want, but then you'll probably discover after you build it that you would have done this or that differently. If at all possible, I'd try to just buy something. It'll be cheaper too, because new construction. I mean, construction costs have gone through the roof. I know you listen to the podcast and you've heard us talking about that, about lumber prices and so forth. So building a house is a big ordeal. I've certainly thought about doing it myself many times. I love architecture. I love design. I love really slick modern houses, but it's just not something I want to do. It's like taking on a whole nother job. Just understand it will suck up a ton of your time for a good year and a half to 2 years. So, with all that said, if you got the money to make some mistakes and have some problems and so forth, go for it. But I think it's a really tough ordeal.
To make mistakes.
So anyway, we'll see if Naresh and Mitch are back now, and Julia too. We've got them all back. So let's see if we can talk to anybody else. Mitch, Naresh?
I'm
Can
here.
you hear me better now, Jason?
Yeah, a little bit. Just hold the microphone up to your mouth. Okay, that's what you've got to do. So Mitch, you were saying about the reset.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay now? Is this
It's
better?
better.
Okay, good. Yeah. My opinion is that as soon as this digital currency starts to roll out, several important things are going to happen. The most important thing that's going to happen is a fundamental change in the valuation of currency. And that will be, as you know, MMT. So as MMT rolls through the world, as it's starting to now, and China already has digital currency running in several major cities throughout the country. And what they did, which is an interesting experiment, they deposited between $200,000 and $500,000 into random accounts throughout the city to experiment and see how people would react to it. And of course, people loved it.
So China just gave this gift to people. I did hear about that. I didn't really follow that story, but
Yeah.
they just gave this huge gift to people to use them as guinea pigs and see how they would spend and use that digital money, right?
Exactly. And what they
Mitch, bring
learned,
that microphone closer to your mouth.
sure. And what they learned from the experience was that
Oh.
that people loved using it. What people don't realize is that there is a switch that the Chinese government can flip and turn everybody's
Well, the switch has been flipped on Mitch because we this is unbelievable how difficult this is. Ugh, gosh. Naresh,
Currency off that.
Oh, there he's back.
Mitch, you're breaking
If
up.
they don't like it, you still breaking up?
Yeah.
No, he's fine now.
It's
Can hear you.
it's too spotty for on the air. We got Naresh. Do you want to make a comment on that?
I don't have a comment about that.
Okay. All right. So what I think, based on my conversations with Mitch on the past, he might have been saying is that with a digital currency, something that is, tied to your phone, right? If the government doesn't like what you say, if the big tech companies don't like what you say, if Mark Zuckerberg, has Libra, and if that is adopted maybe in partnership with a government or a central bank or something, they can just shut you off. They can take your money. Another thing that's interesting they can do is they can make your money expire. So, for example, if we get to a point where we have UBI, universal basic income, maybe they'll give everybody an allowance and they'll change the time frame, just like a gift card, or a coupon, right? It has an expiration date. They'll change the time frame at which it expires, and think about how they can manipulate the economy with that kind of idea. That one of the big principles that causes inflation or deflation is a concept called the velocity of money. So when money moves through the market more quickly, right? It's not just about the amount of money or the supply of money, the supply of credit in the marketplace. It's also the velocity at which it moves. When it moves more quickly, it has a tendency to create inflation because there's more trade going on, and every person in that chain of trade makes a margin, right? They make a markup. That's the beauty of capitalism. It works pretty darn well. But when that happens, that is an inflationary concept. When the velocity of money slows, then it's a deflationary idea. So think about it. If the government decides, okay, they're going to give everybody a handout, pump money into the system, but they say that your monthly allowance, I mean, if you can imagine living in a world that's this controlled, expires in 30 days, you've got to go spend it. Right? I mean, there are so many ways to pull the strings of us puppets, like Joe Biden.
Also, don't forget, Jason, that there's a social aspect to this. So if you're rude to someone in the store and they lower your social rating, they may decide to tax your currency at a higher rate. I mean, there's so many manipulations that can be done once money is electronic.
I know, I agree. And if it's electronic and centralized and run by a government or a central bank, that's what you mean. But of course, what people love about cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin is they're not controlled. But there is talk of Bitcoin manipulation as well. There's certainly gold manipulation. Julia, jump in anytime you want. You're unmuted, okay? And I'm going to just tackle a couple of these questions and comments. We have so many. Thank you for them. Folks, post where you're coming from, where you're located, where you're watching from, and if you think Biden or Trump won the election. just put Biden or put Trump, okay?
Jason, can I share some quick thoughts?
Sure.
Okay. So, everyone, I'm an investment counselor.
Just speak louder.
Yeah, I'm an investment counselor in HVISA. And I see some of these comments that are here, and I wanted to address some of them. One hot topic that people seem to be discussing is the lockdowns. And somebody said China has done a great job of curbing this virus and of, locking down. And I'm sure, Jason, you agree with this, but we can't trust anything that comes out of China. We can't trust the numbers. We can't trust the data that they publish. So I don't know if you see, Jason, but there's quite a lot of debate about this in the comment section, people going after each other. I think it's kind of a proven fact that we can't trust really anything now that China says. So I wanted to lay that out there. Then somebody else.
It's hard to hear you, okay? But I'll repeat what you're saying, and I agree with you. I think a lot of faith has been lost. Even if you're a Democrat, and even if you think that Biden won and he will become president, if you got your way, I think any intellectually honest person has to admit that that the system is much less trustworthy now than it was, uh, you know, a couple of weeks ago. Okay. And also, of course, the consumer price index, the unemployment numbers, the COVID numbers, they're all manipulated. Nobody trusts any of this stuff anymore. And I think, there's maybe a healthy amount of skepticism there, or we've just all completely lost trust. I'd like to introduce Katie, who's on with us. Katie, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Hi.
Hey, how are you? Hey, someone with good sound. That's really wonderful. We can hear you really well.
Oh, and I
So
was I was thinking that you might not because we're in the car. So sorry if I
believe
lose
it or
you.
not, you sound great.
Okay.
Share with us some of your thoughts. I've seen a lot of your posts on social media, Katie, and you've been posting some good resources and thoughts. So share that with all of us as to what you think. I guess I'll ask you first. Do you think the election outcome is final and it's done? And do you think, and if so or if not, do you think it's fair and accurate?
I don't think it's done. First of all, because the mainstream media does not get to determine who our next president is. That's not how. I mean, it's moved to the courts.
Agreed.
So, I guess we really need to wait until there's multiple states that are still being contested. So, I don't know how the end result is going to be. I do know that there's far too much evidence out there that can't be disputed, right? So,
Yep.
really, those are my thoughts. And for 4 years, we listened to them tell us, Russia, 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 and now everyone wants us to believe that there's no way, that there could be any fishy business going on. And I just think that it's destroying the credibility of the media day by day. And so, even if this is overturned and Trump does somehow become the next president, will people believe that either?
Oh, it's going to be pandemonium on the streets.
I think that's a good point. I think everybody is really, really questioning the system. No question about it. Naresh, did you have a thought about that?
Yeah, so I can't believe people. Well, first off, someone in the comments is saying that one of us has feedback. That's why the sound isn't as good. It's not me. So if you're not talking, it would probably be best to mute the microphone.
Right, but you're also soft, Naresh. The microphone's got to be closer to your mouth.
Okay. There. Now the feedback's still there. Anyway, it's surprising to me that people are just taking for gospel what the mainstream media is pumping. Like, votes are still being counted. Like, this is not over, and the lawsuits could uncover all sorts of things. So, I'm not being a homer. I'm not trying to give people hope, but this looks like some kind of coordinated effort by the mainstream news media, and I expect some kind of twist over the next 1 to 2 weeks that the public just isn't ready for. That's just my personal opinion. But one thing that somebody asked in the comments, they said, Biden's going to be the president. He's going to take our 1031 exchanges, and property taxes are going to go up, and this and that. The good news is it appears that the Senate is staying Republican. It's going to take a real miracle for both of the Republican candidates in Georgia to lose. And so with the Senate staying Republican, the economic policy, really all domestic policy, is going to stay the same, because the Senate has to pass any overturn of a law or any new bill. Foreign policy is going to change for sure, because the president has more power there. But this is actually, Gridlock, I think, is a very good position to be in.
Well, Naresh, one of the guest senator, I can't remember who it was, that you booked on my show that I interviewed, wrote a book called Gridlock. And that theory about gridlock is that, look, let's just always let the government be gridlocked so they can't pass any new laws, right? Like, just leave it the way it is and let everybody argue and fight about stuff. Kevin, you had a comment you wanted to share earlier, I believe, and also one of your comments in the thread here that you typed in was that you were looking forward to price discovery. And is that relating to the interest rate issue that you mentioned before, or is it general price discovery? Are you thinking that prices are going to drop in various markets?
I think in cyclical, yeah, especially if we have gridlock and we don't have additional stimulus, I think we're going to be, facing some kind of trouble there. It goes back into the whole deflation inflation discussion, and as George Gammon has mentioned, it's very nuanced. I think anything that has debt service is going to be in for a haircut in an inflationary environment, and obviously in a deflationary environment, we're going to get a haircut as well. So. When you think about an inflationary perspective, when you have inflation, it affects consumer prices probably the fastest and probably the most drastically. So food prices, things that people need on an everyday basis. And so the common misconception is if we have inflation, things that are hard assets are going to go up in value, and that's inclusive of real estate. But what they don't take into consideration is that everything is debt based in the United States, especially. So it doesn't really ring true as far as like foreign countries, which are primarily cash based purchases of real estate. So when you have everything around you become more expensive, food prices, things that you use every day, you have less money to service debt instruments. And so that
suddenly your sound got bad. It was fine.
I think we have some feedback from, I think the car is providing feedback. So if you can mute them, I think that's probably it.
Okay.
There, is that better?
She's muted.
Yeah.
Go.
So, but that's my theory, is that I think everything else is going to start going up in value. But that there again, we're talking, you mentioned before, it's velocity of money. The problem that we have right now is that we've had so much destruction of velocity and people that are not spending, right? We had a short influx of money due to the stimulus. But the lack of, people losing jobs, losing income is far exceeding that. So that velocity, if you look at charting, velocity is falling through the floor. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic going forward. But again, my base case is that we're going to get some corrections, especially in cyclical markets. Where you operate, probably not. I think we'll be fine.
Well, yeah, I think that it's that old 3 dimensions of real estate that I've been teaching for years, which is just a gesture strategy. If you see prices decline, that'll be a result of less housing affordability, and that'll mean people stay in the renter pool, they don't buy, so there's upward pressure on rent. So either way, you can make money. But I have the big question to ask you: what in the world, Kevin, would make you think there's not going to be more stimulus?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question, and I think I think that gridlock is a big part of it. I think one of the reasons why I kind of fell out of, from Trump's perspective, why I kind of went from being a Trump voter to maybe not being a Trump voter, was due to just his fiscal policies and just everybody was willing to spend, inclusive of the Republican. You said everybody's kind of moving to that left. Everybody's moving that direction. My biggest hope with kind of that mixed Congress and president is that'll end, because the Republicans will finally have a reason to be Republicans again from a fiscal perspective and say, you know what, maybe we shouldn't be just handing out money to everybody. And so I would tend to think that we're going to be moving to more stimulus forever. However, my hope is that the Republicans will kind of have this as a realization that maybe we need to not have, that $27 trillion in debt is a problem. But we're so far deep. I don't know if you follow Lynn Alden. She's associated with George Gammon. Yeah. Brilliant. But there's been, I think she mentioned that of all the countries that have exceeded 130% of GDP, so debt to GDP, only one has their currency that survived. So of the 53 countries, and that was Japan. And there's a whole myriad of reasons why that took place. So we're just so far down that path that, like you mentioned, I think, go ahead.
So just for comparison, the U.S., I believe, is at about 100% of GDP now, right? Debt to GDP ratio is about 100. Okay, so we're not at 130 yet. Japan's at like 270. Japan is the biggest offender of them all. But I know that Lynn makes some distinctions about that, and she has made some good distinctions about it. But the difference is, and the thing Lynn did not mention, at least not that I heard, is that none of those countries have the reserve currency of the world and the biggest military the human race has ever known. and the biggest brand the human race has ever known, which is the American brand. And that's really a valuable asset, by the way, and this unique geography that makes it very hard to, attack us, and so, all those great historical things that have really helped. So I hate to say the famous last words, this time different, but I do think it is a little bit different. So, that 130% debt to GDP ratio, Kevin, back on that.
Yeah, well, I think it actually exceeds 100. I have to check my numbers on that, but I'm pretty sure we've. Yeah, I thought we had exceeded that 130, and that was kind of the point of that. I do want to say though, as far as the reserve currency goes, I can't remember the figures exactly. I wish I'd known that we were going to be on. But if you look at the transactions between China and Russia, I think something like over 90% of transactions between China and Russia used to be in the USD. And that has fallen to below 50%. And so while we have had the luxury of the whole Bretton Woods, reserve currency, I think that's a lot less. I think that's going to be a lot less, or a lot more short-lived than kind of what is being implied. I think that they're going to move away from that. What's the question is everything's ugly, right? There's no good currency out there right now, except for maybe, Russia has a very low GDP. I've been investing in some Russian ETFs, something like that. But what's a good option? There is none. But I don't think that the USD is going to be the reserve currency in, I don't know the date that's going to take place, but I don't think it's as strong or as likely it's going to stay there over a period of time.
Yeah, I don't know. I disagree. I think the dollar has a really good future, regardless of what Peter Schiff says.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't think it's logical. I want you to understand, I think it's complete craziness. But just because we have the military, we have the big brand, we have the geography, we have so much world influence, that I think we can maintain that reserve currency status for a long, long time. I want to welcome Jason Keys. How are you, Jason?
Hey, Jason. Is my audio good, or am I going to get yelled at too?
Yeah, it's a battle, man. Nobody wants this conversation to be out there in the world.
Let me know, but I can adjust it. So just, yeah.
Big lefty tech companies do not want anybody to hear this stuff. But Katie will agree with that. Nod your head, Katie. Yes, you agree with that. So Jason is a commercial real estate broker in Los Angeles. And I know you've been talking about leaving the Socialist Republic of California. I think that's a great idea, and you should do it. But just give us some thoughts about the election and what's going on in the real estate market, especially California, because it's
yeah. So my thoughts on the election are definitely it's so controversial to even talk about it. And my network is split 50-50. Like, my personal network is a bunch of Indian Americans and other different races, a lot of different races. And my business network is like you and me, Jason, like our masterminds, the people that think people that think straight, according to me. And so it's like talking about it's been really divisive. I think that, obviously Trump knew that this was coming. So there's some, I wouldn't call them conspiracy theories, but there's some theories floating around that there is additional layers of tracking that went into effect in the ballots, that there's something coming up. And Trump's being awfully quiet the last couple of days. I know I'm kind of repeating some media lines, but it's a fact that you don't see him, right? So I think something's in the works. The problem I see is that by the media calling it, the world and definitely Americans, the ones you saw on the street yesterday when COVID magically disappeared, and them celebrating it wasn't a super spreader event anymore.
COVID disappeared.
Yes, exactly. Not even Trump did. Biden did get elected, but Biden got, I guess, announced, and COVID disappeared.
He was appointed.
Oh yeah, he was appointed. Right. So my thing is, I know it's very controversial, and I've literally watched my Facebook friend count drop, but as I looked at some of the people that disappeared, they'd never influenced my life anyways positively. I'm American first. I'm a Republican second. That's it. Always American first. I think that there's something in the cards, but that also not worries me because I'm not afraid of anything, but I feel like when whatever this that's in the works comes about, there's going to be crazy tension, because 50% of the U.S. is not going to want to admit it to be true.
I've got a question for Jason, because you bring up a good point about your Facebook friends dwindling over the past couple of weeks. has this always been
Yeah.
a thing? Like 2004, 2008, has this been a thing where people just get into fights with their friends and family members and
It's
unfriend?
asking a rhetorical question because Naresh, you've talked to me about this and how people
Well, I know it recently.
bail on
I know
you.
it recent. I know it recently, but I'm asking about 2004, 2008, even back in the 80s, 90s. Like, what's this a thing?
So my opinion on that, recently cancel culture is like a mainstream thing. It's the normal thing to do, to get into an argument. You know, literally some people actually have nothing better to do with their life, so they go find posts that don't agree with them rather than just saying, hey, mute this fella, like don't let me see less of this person in my feed. You can control that on your various social networks. They want to engage, then they want you to respond, then they want to call you words, and then they want to leave, and it's like, goodbye. You know, you should have just left to begin with. You know, so yeah.
Let me share something. You know,
Yeah.
I wrote an article in a trade magazine maybe, I don't know, 18 years ago. So call it 2002. And it was an article about the monologue media and the dialogue media. And back then, it was obviously different than it is today, 18 years ago, right? But back then, I made an interesting observation, and I've never heard anybody make this observation. But the observation was that the then blogosphere, which was, you know, like the new thing, everybody's blogging, right? And the old talk radio, the AM talk radio, all of that media was conservative, right? Pretty much, like 95% of it, right? Was and the left, the liberals, the Democrats tried to launch a liberal talk radio station called Air America that people might remember, and it went bankrupt. It totally flopped. It totally failed. Okay. And all of the and that's the dialogue media, the blogosphere and talk radio, where people would call in, express their opinion, argue with a show host, and share ideas and debate them. The dialogue media, the blogosphere, you could comment on blogs, right? And the monologue media was, you know, ABC, NBC, CNN, where the media tells you stuff and you get to believe it. It was book publishing, newspaper publishing, and I get it that newspapers have an op-ed page, right? You know, but it's nothing, right? What the New York Times says and the LA Times says, you know, that goes, right? And that's the monologue media, right? And now we have a new dialogue media the past 15 years or so called social media, right? And in the beginning, social media was really libertarian. It was very free. It was a real dialogue. And then it became, you know, most recently the cancel culture and big tech and absolute scumbags like Jack Dorsey, a freedom-hating, you know, democracy-hating person. And these others are guilty too, because, you know, we don't even know why we see what we see in our news feeds or our search results when we search Google. All of these companies are very left-leaning, obviously, right? And we have no idea what we don't see. You know, we just don't know what's not there, what's not presented to us, right? And so now, you know, the left is controlling that, and they're censoring it like crazy, and so the idea of the monologue media versus the dialogue media was that it seemed like the right side of the political spectrum had better arguments and better positions because their ideas could withstand the scrutiny of debate. People could call in and argue with the talk show host. People could comment on the blog, and the ideas would stand, right? Whereas the monologue media just pushed ideas out one way, no conversation, no debate, and that was it. So it was really interesting to me that the right controlled the dialogue media and the blogosphere and talk radio, and the left controlled the monologue media, the old media. So I don't know.
I agree. I agree. It's a one way versus a two way, right, Jason? And the other thing is, like, it's funny as you were saying that, is you said the different types of media, and you said social media came about and it was very free because, as you know, you put everything out there and everybody can come in from anywhere. I feel like we've gone from social media to socialist media. I think it was hidden in their word there all along. And then as far as you said, like the news, right, being a one way, a monologue type thing, it goes back to that simple marketing or that simple business technique where you're like, hey, Mr. Sales Guy, call all your clients and try and get some more orders. Hello, can I get some orders? Okay, no, it's not happening. tell them that the price of paper, let's say you're Dunder Mifflin, right, is going to go up. Yeah, the price of paper is going to go up next month, you know, raw goods, etc. It's going to have a 10% jump. You should order right now. Okay, no, I don't want it. Now put it in writing, like basically deliver on the news, right? Well, how do you know that's true? How do you know that Tylenol, infant Tylenol will kill your baby if you give it to them? I read somewhere, you know, like, or I heard it on the news. The minute you hear it on the news, it becomes true. So, you know, that 10% increase or that $5 increase, they put it in writing and they would fax it back in the day. They'd be like, here, 10% increase, you know, send it to the customer. And then the customer gets it. Oh no, I just got a fax that the prices are going up 10%. Hello, can I order some paper, right? It's how you present it. And you're right. I think news is that they deliver it one way, and people that are sheepish in nature. Yeah, I see stuff on Fox and I don't agree with it sometimes. I'm like, hey, I don't know about that, you know?
Fox has gone to the left.
Okay. Yeah, I saw that this week.
No longer on the right for a long time.
Right.
You know, we saw Fox, you know, mistakenly call Arizona. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Right.
Everybody that was a conservative watching Fox in the old days now went to Newsmax because that's the only place they can get legitimate news now. Katie, any thoughts on any of this? I mean, you have all these great posts. I see them on social media. So share some of your thoughts on this stuff.
It just seems to me a little bit crazy, all the censorship that you're seeing. I mean, did you ever think in our lives that we would hear where the president of the freest country on earth is being censored for quote unquote hate speech or violence, when it's simply just something where the left is trying to control the narrative?
Yeah.
You know, and it just seems outrageous.
Yeah. And the way they are interrupting the president, and the way Twitter shut down Kayleigh's, the White House press secretary, her Twitter feed, right? They shut her down. Can you imagine shutting off the press secretary for the White House?
Ridiculous.
It's unbelievable. This is insane. Well, I mean, these Jack Dorsey.
Well, just yesterday.
I mean, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just yesterday on Twitter, there was this this false story that came out that said, you know, Kayleigh McEnany is deleting all of her Twitter feed, right? And that was the story that they ran with, saying, you know, she's trying to cover, you know, her booty basically, and she had to basically come out and say, I didn't do any of this.
Yeah, they were deleting.
I'm not deleting anything, and it's just, yeah. I mean, we don't even have control anymore over our own Facebook pages or Twitter pages. I mean, it's crazy. The stuff that gets censored almost immediately when I hit send is out of this world.
Yeah. Oh, I know. I mean, I don't know if you've experienced this, folks, but in Facebook private messenger, they are censoring in the messenger app, where literally people will send me things and they will be gone. I will have to send them a screenshot showing that what they sent me is gone. Or they'll say they sent me something on another communication platform, like on Voxer, or in a conversation. They'll say, did you get that thing I sent you on Facebook Messenger? No, I did not get it. It literally evaporated. This is insanity. That
WhatsApp for private communication, Jason.
What?
I switched over to WhatsApp for private communication.
Well, WhatsApp is owned by Facebook.
Yeah.
They're actually, WhatsApp is going to be the next step. They merged Messenger for Facebook and Instagram. Like, you can opt in right now, and pretty soon they'll force it. The WhatsApp is the next integration, so they're going to push it all into Messenger pretty soon. But hey, Jay, on that one too, Candace Owens did her video where she's suing Facebook, and if people shared that in a private message like they did to me, you can't click on it. It doesn't open up to be able to reshare it or something. Versus the prank video that somebody in that same person sent me like the day before, and that one can play and it can click and open into Facebook, and it's fascinating. I mean, it's right there.
No, I know. And it's not just that. I've noticed that on Facebook recently, when I try to post things, it won't let me post. It'll just give me the something went wrong message. And then I'll refresh the page. I'll do it again and again, and it won't let me post. And then this happened to me many times. I mean, I would have to have a video of my screen to be able to show it to you.
Yeah.
But and then I'll rewrite the post because each time I lose the thing and I have to rewrite it, which is super annoying. So people just won't post. But I'll rewrite it and make it less political, and then it'll post. It'll work. It's startling. I mean, it's unbelievable. So let me propose what I've been saying for maybe, I don't know, 8 years now. What needs to happen with social media is that, look, this would all be fine. These are private companies. I mean, they're publicly traded companies, but they're not the government, right? So they don't have any obligation to give anybody a platform to say what they want, right? You can't walk into a radio station and say, "Hey, I want to talk about something. Give me your airwaves," right?
Yeah.
They don't have to do that, and that's understandable. But
Exactly.
the difference is that these companies have become so big that they're duopolies or monopolies in their field, and there is no free market. There is no other real choice. Yes, you can go to Parler or Gab or these things that are much smaller and dwarfed, right? Because they haven't been able to raise the money. So what needs to happen with these companies is either one or all three of these things. Number one, they need to be split up under antitrust laws, or number two, they need to be regulated like utilities under common carrier laws. For example, Jason, you picked up that phone to demonstrate something to us, right? If we're talking on the phone and we say something the phone company doesn't like, they don't get to cut our phone service off as long as we're paying the bill, right? And so that would be number two, common carrier law regulation, where they don't get to censor anybody. And number three, the algorithms need to be made public. So all the computer geeks in the world can evaluate them and see why a certain post gets more likes than another one, and why it's shown to more people than another post, and why when you search Google, you get certain search results, and why you get different search results when you search a good search engine like DuckDuckGo. Okay.
Sure.
And why certain YouTube videos are being suggested to you and not. I mean, one or all three of these things needs to happen, because this is just a absolutely crazy timing in.
Let's go one step further, Jason. Why don't we make the algorithm adjustable by every user? So we get to choose what we want to see and how we want posts and videos and everything else presented to us. That would be the true democracy of the social media platform. And then anybody can literally change the algorithm for themselves anytime they want.
Yeah, well, that would be interesting, but it would need to be public first, and then yes, that sounds good to me. I agree. So yeah, it's just absolutely nuts.
What seemed to change?
Katie, go ahead. They don't want you to
Sorry.
speak.
So what seemed to change everything is when we brought hate speech. Can you hear me?
When the definition of hate speech was expanded to include everything under the sun, basically, right? Yeah. Now we lost her.
If you wear a Trump hat, you're basic. Anything comes out of your mouth, it's hate speech at that point. It's like that.
Hey, Jason.
Incredible. Yes. And Mitch, you're very far away sounding. Can you get closer to your microphone? Your microphone it's not sensing your mic. It's listening through the computer.
Okay, I'll check. But I'll say this, if you can still hear me.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I want to check.
You could just speak louder, and that'll help.
Yeah. Okay. What I was going to say is that we talked earlier about gridlock, and we had taken some comfort in the fact that there is gridlock. My prediction is that I don't believe that Republicans will hold the Senate. I think the same machine that destroyed the Trump presidency through vote cheating is working right now to do exactly the same thing for senators as well.
Well, the machine is definitely working. No one could disagree with that, right? The machine is working. Will it be successful? Let's hope not. But yeah, good point. Yeah.
Well, unlike previous losers who gave up, they're fighting this. They, meaning Trump, is whether he wins or loses, it looks like he wants to go out and expose this level of corruption. And that's why I don't think the cheating is going to happen again in Georgia. If there is cheating, or if that's what they were doing, it's going to be exposed within the next 6 weeks.
Yeah. Katie, what were you saying before we couldn't hear you? And then let's go back to Kevin because he hasn't said anything in a while. Oh, darn it. And there she goes again. Kevin?
So we have obviously some great real estate minds on the call. In the event that all these things don't end up turning into any change, what do you guys think a Biden presidency means for real estate, both on the residential and then commercial?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I wanted to get to that much earlier. So,
yeah.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah, let's focus on that.
I think, and Jason, chime in here, especially you, but getting rid of the 1031 exchange will be an absolute disaster. Now, Democrats tend to look at a lot of this stuff pretty myopically, I'll say, and I'm not insulting them. I'm just saying that, generally that philosophy is a Band-Aid. It's hacking at the weeds rather than the root. Okay. And if the 1031 exchange goes away, certainly real estate investors will have to pay tax every time they trade, just like stock investors do, or business owners do, right? Or gold bugs or Bitcoin cryptocurrency people, they have to pay tax before they get to reinvest. Real estate or investment real estate has always enjoyed this wonderful luxury of the 1031 tax deferred exchange. And that's been a great thing, a great characteristic of it. But here's the thing. What they're not talking about is that so many other industries are affected by this. Think of all of the myriad of mortgage people that finance those new property purchases. Think about the velocity of real estate transactions and look at it like it is in Europe. It's nothing. The European real estate market, there's hardly any trading at all. There's like very little brokerage business in Europe versus the US where there's trading all the time. There's velocity.
Correct.
Right? So there will be less velocity of transactions. It means there will be fewer mortgages on big commercial properties and small properties. Also, it means that the concept that's an appraisal concept of what's called highest and best use will not be obtained as often. And the optimization of properties will not be obtained. What I mean by that is this, is that when people sell a property and a new buyer buys a property, a new buyer, and Jason, you can attest to this, will look at that property with a new set of eyes and think, gosh, maybe we should convert it to another use. Maybe we should add on or, fix it up or re-tenant it or repaint it. And they'll provide what the market wants. That's what, my favorite economist, Joseph Schumpeter, called creative destruction. And so you'll have a lot less of all these good things if you eliminate the 1031 tax deferred exchange. You'll also have a lot less business for escrow companies, title companies, settlement attorneys, all of the contractors that do fix-up work for properties. I mean, that has a domino effect that just destroys so many people's livelihood. Jason, Biden in general or 1031 exchange specifically, but
yeah, I mean, and that's it. And then there's all kinds of influences. As we were talking, I pulled up on another screen over here, just live as this really is. 84% reporting as of now. I check it every day. It's gone from like 60 to 70 to 84 right now. California on Prop 15. For those that are not familiar, that's basically they were trying to remove the protections that Prop 13 had, which is you limit your property taxes to the purchase price, right? So if you bought a shopping center in 1985, your tax basis for the value of that center is based on that purchase price, not reevaluated every year. It's trending at 52% no right now and 48% yes. So, and that's what it's been from 60 to 70 to 80. I'm hoping that stays that way, but it's really close. And if this election has shown us anything, you can jump the other way with the last 10 votes, which is baloney. But If this passes, that's one influence just like that. So anytime the government, is my point was, anytime the government starts making these macro industry shifting moves, such as removing a 1031 or changing something that's been in place in like California, in the California since the 70s, where that's how you value the centers. You're right. It's gonna change the mindset. We are negotiating on a $14 million office property right here. Jason, you know Orange County. You would probably recognize the building I talk about. Obviously, we're right in the middle of it, so I'm not going to say which building it is. We're negotiating on that this weekend as we speak, and probably going to go under contract tomorrow. And if the 1031 wasn't there, or if there's capital gain changes or any of those things that we've discussed that might be coming about under the Biden tax plan, we look at this with a whole different set of eyes.
Would the real estate market crash, Jason, if that happened?
Well, it's not going to be good for the market, but crash is there's so many factors, right? I mean, if interest rates stay low like this, I sure doubt there's going to be any crash anytime soon.
Correct.
I mean, properties are so cheap on, like Kevin said at the beginning, on a payment perspective. I mean, the price of real estate has declined. It's the sticker price has gone up, but the monthly cost has gone way down. I've got a webinar I'm going to do coming up on that, which analyzes that in depth. And Jason may have seen that in. We belong to a mastermind group that may have seen that, and me give that presentation. We've got a new person here, Robert. Welcome. How are you, Robert Hernandez? There he goes. As soon as I welcome him, he's gone. Coming from the car is really difficult. Katie, it looks like you might be back with better reception now. I'm hoping, because you're indoors. I think she's muted. Yeah, I don't know if she can hear me. But anyway, okay, so let's go back to some. Oh, there you are.
I think she has a big delay over there. So
yeah, I think it is. Okay, let's get to some of these questions.
Yeah, so a little back to what I was saying.
Go ahead. Yes. Go. Katie. There's definitely a delay. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So back to what I was saying about hate speech, it's, we let it get defined by whoever gets outraged by what they're feeling.
Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, when we see tweets that say, death to America, and those are allowed to stay, that's a big problem. When I'm being censored for my opinions, but literal hate speech and literal threats, and it doesn't seem to violate any of Twitter's or Facebook's, standards. I mean, that's a big problem. And we have half of the people in this country who are okay with the censorship.
Yeah.
I should also say one example that I faced. I was trying to find in 2008, David Duke, who was a prominent member of the KKK, he spoke very highly of Barack Obama when Obama was running for president. So I was just trying to find the articles that talked about that, and I had to go all the way down to page 7 on Google, and there was a bunch of articles about it, but Google just suppressed it. They didn't delete the article. These are from like NPR, Washington Post. They weren't like independent blogs, but it's almost as unless you went down to page 6 or 7 or 8, you would have thought I thought I was crazy. I was like, I'm pretty sure he said these things about Obama, and I thought maybe I had some kind of mental issue, but I just had to go way down.
Hold your cord. It's making a lot of noise dangling. So just hold the cord. Okay. Yeah. No, I agree with you. It's things are put where where they want you to see them or don't see them. They make it harder to find them. There's all kinds of tricks they can do. No question about it. Okay, let's try and bring Robert on here. Robert, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me good?
So, where are you located?
California.
Whereabouts?
Atwater.
Where'd you say?
Atwater, California.
Atwater.
It's part of LA. Yeah.
You and Jason are in the Socialist Republic of California. Welcome.
Yeah. Unfortunately, but what can we do? We're here. So I just wanted to call and give my thoughts about the economy, and it's what I'm seeing from. I'm an immigrant, so I'm Mexican American, and I see how I don't understand why the government wants our people. They're so controlled, and they have them so under this impression of socialism is good. And I can't have a good conversation like with any of my family members or Hispanics like me, because the way that they think, it's that they expect the government to give them stuff, and I don't understand why they allow that. Like, they allow to spread. It's like, it's ridiculous. Like, I can't have a good conversation with anybody because they think that I'm like bad or something, like my thinking. So,
Well,
and it's just
Robert,
not.
first of all, I want to commend you for fighting the good fight, okay? Because, and please keep doing it. Look at it's it's people almost always vote their pocketbook, right? And the compelling offer of free stuff from the government is a really compelling offer. It's hard to beat that, right? Because that's
Yeah.
instant gratification, right? You get it now, and the way you pay later is with loss of liberty, inflation, higher taxes, and businesses that leave and jobs that leave. But
And
initially,
I
good because you get a check this month, right?
and
So,
and I understand that. I understand that. But what I'm saying is that, how come people are not able to see that? Like, don't they have a brain where they see, okay, why is the government having so much control over my life? And they
Yeah.
they
We
don't
have to bring
they
on
want to stay there.
technology.
They want to stay there, and they don't want to succeed.
Yeah,
And
I know.
I heard from your podcast yesterday, you guys talked about something that ringed in my it got me thinking. And you said something about that the state, they want to be in control of the big companies or every single business, and that's why they make it difficult for smaller business to succeed with all these regulations and taxation. So it's just scary, man. It's scary that, like, entrepreneurs that are want to create a business, want to invest, they're gonna be stopped
Yep.
because because the state wants to be in control of everything.
You're absolutely right. And to Robert's point, and Mitch, you'll probably have something to say about this because we've talked about it before. Look at
Yeah.
whenever you can control, whenever you can consolidate things, like big companies or getting people all living in a densely populated city, it's just much easier to control things that way. You have fewer entities to control. And so, Mitch knows about UN Agenda 21, which is this whole agenda to help the environment, supposedly, by putting people into compact cities and getting them. By the way, someone's got some background noise. I thought it was Robert, but it's not because I just muted him. So it's coming from somewhere. I'm not sure. But you have fewer companies, fewer big companies. They get to trade favoritism with the government because they've got all the lobbyists. Like Google just spends mountains of money on lobbyists. So does Facebook, and
Yeah.
and then the government can dole out favoritism to them, and they basically act as a proxy for the government, right?
But you're
Yeah.
saying the government, but who are you referring to? Are you referring to the left or to the right?
Well, I'm referring to all government at first, but it's vastly more popular on the left. Okay, no question about it, because the left is much more into control, and they're much more into big government and big programs, and doling out goodies so people vote for them. I mean,
So
look,
this is
Cover it.
the
Yeah.
this
And to add,
when Hugo
Jay, to,
Chavez died, I remember
yeah.
watching. I don't know, it was CNN or one of the big networks like ABC or something. I can't remember which one, but they were doing a program on Hugo Chavez, right, the dictator of Venezuela. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, and they talked about how people loved him in Venezuela because he built schools and had government programs and he handed out the goodies, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way it always comes first. If you want to win someone over, you give them stuff, right?
Yep.
and then you ratchet up the control, and then the inevitable effect is you're going to have inflation, higher taxes, a terrible business environment because the businesses will just leave. There'll be supply shortages. It's a disaster every time. Every
It's
time
like
where it's been tried, it's always a disaster.
it's
Right,
like
Jay,
the
and
guy that.
go
Oh,
ahead.
go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. No, I can
Jason?
answer
No,
your
it's like
question a little bit because even Jason's mentioned it before. I mention it all the time when I'm chatting with people and stuff. Like if you've come from a place that had socialism, you realize how, like I was born in Orange County actually, but I've lived in India and I've lived in Hong Kong, and so I've seen different sides of the world, and I've traveled to other places. Jason's traveled a lot too, Hartman, I should say, Jason here, and we call each other by last names when there's too many Jasons in the room, like we do in our mastermind. But the point is if you've been through socialism, you realize the long-term negative repercussions. Like anybody that's into real estate, anybody that's into business, we thrive. We live off of free market capitalism, the ability to start here and go here and go here and go here and build it without being controlled. The problem also, to answer your question, is now, and it doesn't have to do with your heritage being a Mexican American. We all come from different places originally. But what's happening in the current world, I have a 12-year-old, for example, the kids she goes to school with, it's now. Like I want it now. And if you can give that instant gratification, if that comes through mailbox money, like I'm sitting on my sofa watching Maury or whatever people watch these days, right? And there's $1,200 hitting my bank account, or $600, or whatever the money was coming in from COVID relief or unemployment. Why do I need to work? I'm making more than I did standing at Disneyland selling churros for 8 hours a day. And then you get people programmed to get something for nothing, but you don't there's no free lunch as our parents taught us, right? So that's why people are okay with it.
No, that's understandable, but like, look, it's an example like here in California. This is the way I look at it, Jason. Look, it's like they're telling you like this. Okay, yes, we're gonna give you this $100 straightforward and hand it to you, in front of everybody. But behind the scenes, with all these taxations and regulations, they're putting their other hand in your back pocket and taking a $200. And then people don't notice that, and they complain. And then what does the government do? Here, don't worry, we're gonna give you this, and then people go back to being happy again. It's like I don't get it.
It's like an addiction.
I might be wrong. I don't know.
It's like a shot to your wrist, right? Yeah.
It's an addiction.
If you remember Mitt Romney, when he ran, one of the things he said just as his campaign was closing was that I really had no chance.
Better, Rich.
What's that?
You sound so much better now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Mitt Romney was basically saying, look, I have no chance of winning when a Democratic presidential government is going to give over 50% of the population money every month. So who is going to vote to turn that off? Even when you talk about Social Security. Now, I mean, I don't collect Social Security. I won't for several years going forward. But when you do, it will be taxed. And in some states, up to 80% of what you collect will be taxed. And that's the government giving you your money back at a loss. And by the way, we talked a little bit about Agenda 21. Jason, is it okay if I drop a link here to the actual document? Is that all right?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah,
Here
but
you
what
go.
do you want to say about it, though?
Well, Agenda 21 is the United Nations grand plan, basically created for the purpose of total control of Earth's population. And if you think that this is some conspiracy theory, the document I just posted is a real document, and it is sourced by government officials. And you should read it. It's a very long and it's confusing. There's several sites that break it down. But in essence, what it's saying is the government is moving towards a complete control of Earth's population of people. And that means currency, that means space, that means cities, that means land, that means social media, that means banking, everything. That's what they want. That's really where, unfortunately, Biden is going to be taking us. Trump was fighting against this. He was one of the few people who I think really saw the dangers of this and tried to do his best to stop it from happening. And he never talked about it because he would be labeled a conspiracy theorist. But here it is in writing. You could read it yourself.
Yeah, yeah. So Mitch, did you where did you put that link? You can post it on YouTube and on one of the Facebook streams. Okay.
Okay, I posted it in my, I guess on StreamYard. It's not the
Oh,
same.
yeah, no, it's not. Post it on YouTube if you would. Okay.
Sure, happy to. Yep.
On the YouTube video. So that's Agenda 21. And of course, that's what they want, folks. They want control. Why wouldn't they want control? Of course, they want control. By the way, someone commented, I could see speakers' names on the screens. Yeah, when there's just a couple of speakers, it puts their names, but I guess the names would be too small with so many speakers. So you've got myself, Jason, another Jason next to me. You've got Mitch, Naresh, Katie, Kevin, and Robert. Okay. Now, I want to talk to people about this conspiracy word for a moment, because this is an epic scam. It's kind of like the book 1984 by George Orwell that was written in, I think, 1949, where they've basically relabeled language. And that's what they're doing. And Katie was alluding to this earlier, okay? This whole idea of a conspiracies, folks, are real. What is unreal about a conspiracy? It simply means there are two or more people planning something. That's a conspiracy. Get over it. This is not a bad word. The CIA in the 60s, trying to combat the hippie generation, started throwing out that phrase and labeling people conspiracy theorists to brand them as nut jobs. Okay. And let me tell you, we've got an international audience. I know on the podcast, we've got listeners in 189 countries. And here we've probably got some people outside of the US, but you're watching this US election, right? And, I want to just remind everybody that back in the 1700s, there was a conspiracy by some people that came to this land. They came to the eastern coast of America, and they plotted a conspiracy against England. And it's called America. That was a conspiracy. Okay. So get over this bullshit about conspiracy. And if someone labels you that, tell them to F off, because there is nothing wrong with noticing a real conspiracy. Okay. There are real conspiracies that absolutely exist. I'm sure the Democrats are conspiring and the Republicans are conspiring. So what? Okay. Conspiracies are going on every minute of every day, everywhere on planet Earth. Okay.
Jason,
that word needs to stop being a bad word. It's
so
absolutely.
Here's the origin. Conspiracy theory was a term invented by the CIA during the assassination investigation of John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, in the 60s, right.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they had the Warren Commission to lie to everybody about that. I mean, look, I got fascinated by the JFK assassination. And after seeing that movie, I flew to Dallas because I had to go there and see that exact spot. I stood next to the window where Oswald supposedly was. Okay. And they've got the actual window. They've got plexiglass around it. Okay. But I stood in the next window over that's just, 10 feet over and looked down. And I thought, that's a really hard shot. And then I stood on the grassy knoll and I thought, that's a really easy shot. Okay. So, it's just nuts. Yeah. So Mitch, go ahead with the conspiracy theory.
Well, the reason I'm pointing it out is, and you and I both did exactly the same thing. So I actually was on a business trip to Dallas and I took the time to go up to the book building, and I looked out the window that theoretically Oswald had fired the gun from, and I had the exact same conclusion you did. And I'm personally, I'm skilled with firearms, and I looked at that shot and said, wow, I mean, that would be impossible for me to do. And I can't imagine the precision it would take and the type of weapon it would take. It would require a very expensive, high-powered weapon.
And even if it did happen that way, would you have actually planned it that way? The chances of being unsuccessful would have been so high.
Oh, yeah.
It's just ridiculous. But anyway, the point is, this whole conspiracy thing should not be considered a bad word. There are real conspiracies that are going on all the time. Get over it. Okay.
Yep, you got it.
I don't know why it's not a conspiracy. Jason, you and I sat in a room at that table 3 years ago. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just hold the microphone to your mouth. or like if you've got your earbuds on, or get closer to the mic.
Sure. Can you hear me now? Is this a little better?
Much dramatically.
I was going to say, Jason, you and I sat at the same table talking 3 years ago about how they're changing words right in front of us. You and I, we talked for hours over the word fascist and the word racist. They were both changed over the last 3 years to include extreme right wing, whatever. I mean, if you want to talk about a conspiracy.
That's a conspiracy. I mean, look at the social media companies. They're conspiring for sure. I don't think anyone could deny that, no matter what their beliefs are, right? It's obvious. And yeah, they have changed the definitions, like literally looking things up in the dictionary, the definitions of words have actually changed. I mean, folks, you got to read 1984 by George Orwell and read Animal Farm by George Orwell. These books were, I mean, the predictions have come true. It's unbelievable.
Atlas Shrugged.
Jason. Atlas Shrugged, of course, by Ayn Rand. I was just going to say that. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's we are living through this, folks. It is.
Another thing that I was going to say, Jason, is that another thing that I see how government and everybody, they always make decisions based off of emotions. They're able to control people. They don't remember, even when you get mad, your rationality goes out the window. How can you understand that? So you talk to all these people that they don't have a really high educated level because they don't choose to. They choose to party, do whatever, and it's okay. That's what they want to live. That's okay. And they're able to control them so easily with emotions. They just say something about Trump or whatever. But they don't look at the numbers. Numbers don't lie. They don't look at the numbers, and I don't know. I don't know where we're gonna go.
No question about it. If Katie, go ahead.
Sorry, I said I don't know what rational person would choose a 62% tax increase over. I mean, anything else.
That's what I'm saying. But that's education.
I mean, I was gonna ask you, why do you think people are choosing that, Jason?
What Katie's referring to is the combined state and federal tax rate forecasted in the Socialist Republic of California and New York. Okay. You will literally pay 62%. I mean, if you're a successful person, right, who's making some money, you will pay 62% of your income just to income tax, not including any other form of tax. We all pay tons of other taxes. This is just
gas tax, sales tax, payroll tax. Yeah, the millions of others.
That's
literally,
ridiculous.
You're going to work. You're going to be a slave for about 7.5 months of every single year of your life just to pay income tax. Get out of socialist states like California and New York. That's the first thing you got to do, is just get out. Like I did it back 3 years ago. I left California. Best decision of my life.
When you left California, do you have family over here in California?
Yeah. Well, no. In Northern California, I have aunts, uncles, and cousins at the time. So I had to think about that. But not in Southern where I live. But look, just be the leader and get them to follow. Okay.
Yeah. Lead the pack.
You just got to do it.
Words like, we're only going to tax the rich, which sounds good, which I think they're saying they're lumping the rich into anyone who makes over, I think they said 400,000 a year.
400,000. Obama said 249,000, and they're saying 400,000. But Katie, even if it was 400,000, remember the way these things always go, always, is it starts at 400,000. That's considered rich. And then they need more money and they decide they got to bring that down to 300,000. And then, the year after that, it's like, we got to get that down to 250 for that highest marginal tax rate. Or we create so much inflation that 400,000 ain't what it used to be, one way or the other, right? Or they really do both at the same time.
But Jason, very important point here. When they say that they're going to tax only the rich at 400,000, don't forget that over 6 million businesses in this country are subchapter S businesses. And what that means is that all profits pass down to the owner's personal account. So a business that generates $400,000 in profit may pay the CEO, less than $100,000, and that profit is used to build the company. So the problem is they're increasing the taxes on, not on rich people, on small, sometimes the smallest of small businesses.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and they're keeping the investment from going back into the business, Mitch, or
Exactly.
them starting another business or doing something else that stimulates the economy.
It's coming back to even like something like Prop 15, which I'd had some conversations here during this election week with random friends of mine. And I obviously believed some of those that were leaning left. I didn't even know. I just said, hey, how'd you vote on Prop 15? And they're like, which one was that? And I said, okay, it's the one that said money for schools and colleges, because they name things very incorrectly here in California. And I said, oh yeah, that's just taxing the rich. It's just for the people who have $3 million more worth of real estate or more. And I said, you can barely find a building in California that's under 3 million on the commercial side. You just almost doesn't exist.
Building. Yeah, right.
Yeah, commercial building almost doesn't exist. And she's like, yeah, but that's okay. There's an exemption for small business owners. I said, wrong again. The exemption is, if you read all 16 pages of the actual prop, you'll see that it's for 3 million and under. But if a business owner owns 2 buildings that are 1.8 each or 1.6 exceeds 3 million, so that's not exempt. And really, if you understand triple net leases, you know that a shopping center that gets hit with higher taxes is passing it on to the little restaurant where you get your teriyaki bowl, the dry cleaner, the little daycare place that your kids go to, the dentist. They all get hit with higher taxes. It's not really hitting the big guy, It gets passed along, and people don't understand that,
I want to expand on that point, Jason, because that's such an important point. Everybody needs to understand that businesses, corporations, and landlords are pass-through entities. When you raise the taxes or raise the price or whatever on them, all they do is raise the price to the consumer. And it just gets passed right through. Do you think, all of these idiots on the left that say things like, oh, we got to go tax the rich, right? What do you think? The rich are going to take a pay cut? Are you silly? I mean, they're not going to take a pay cut. They're just going to pass it through by raising prices and creating more inflation. And who hurts the most from that? It's the poor and the lower middle class.
Well, look
they
what
get hurt the most.
At McDonald's when they raised, the minimum wage. They eliminated positions left and right, and they put a computer in its place. And so what they don't understand that happens is a trickle-down effect of when taxes get raised. We eliminate positions as business owners.
Yeah.
So who does that end up hurting?
They rush to automate, and they pass through the cost. I mean, Katie, to your point, I remember I took my mastermind group to Seattle as to one of our retreats, and we had a dinner there, a big group dinner. It was like $2,500. I got the check, but when I got the check, it literally had, and I took a picture of this and put it on Facebook at the time. Probably was censored now. It said, due to minimum wage increase, here's a surcharge. They were literally, it's not just the 18% compulsory tip or 20% compulsory tip and the check. They literally put an itemized surcharge on the check that said, due to minimum wage increase, and they're just passing it right through. What do you think? The restaurant's going to take a pay cut? I mean,
right. It's because they need to maintain their food to labor to overhead ratios. There has to be that ratio. And if they're getting hit with external, you either go one or two ways on that example, right? There's either going to be this surcharge, which actually will piss people off because they've line itemed it and shoved it in your face, or you wonder why that, let's just say you're having Indian food, for example. You're like, why is my chicken tikka masala $19 a dish instead of $14 like it was, last month when I was here? Well, it's got to come from somewhere, guys. It's simple as that.
Well, where I live in Missouri, they've added a COVID tax to a lot of things at the restaurants here.
Yep, here too.
What is that? Like, there's a surcharge, a COVID surcharge?
Mm-hmm.
I guess to help keep the lights on at the place, I guess.
Yeah, I get it. Like, I started going back to getting my haircuts after kind of the mandatory lockdown got lifted, and the haircut went up $2, and it was already not cheap, here for a men's haircut, in the $20 range. And I'm like, what happened? Because, I was obviously tip on top of that to my hairdresser. And they're like, oh yeah, we had to raise our prices because of COVID. And I said, you should be glad that people are coming in like me every 10 days to make sure I, look half decent on camera and not charge us extra, but be grateful that we're coming in, But,
and that's exactly it. All it does is incentivize people like us to tip less because you're charging me more now on the front end of a service.
And who does that hurt? That hurts the minimum wage worker right there. Yep.
Yeah. But shame on us because we should be paying more.
Yeah.
We've conditioned the public to say, well, they work harder, so they should pay more.
Yeah. Yep. It's just unbelievable, folks. It really is. Well, hey, let's wrap it up. We're almost at 2 hours here. I just want to get some of these comments and questions on the screen. Some of them are great. We don't have time to read them all or address them all, folks, but I just want to get them on the screen so they're on the video and do that. I should require Apple AirPod use. Well, listen, Tyler, I hate Apple now. I think Apple is almost as disgusting as the other big tech companies. I used to really give them a pass because I thought that Tim Cook was more ethical than the rest. Maybe he is a little bit better, but not much. I think Apple's scum, basically. And I think their products are starting to suck, by the way. I'm a user, okay? I got 2 of their phones right here, in front of me and one of their computers. But yeah, they're so I'm not going to require any branded equipment. I'll put it that way.
Blame it on censorship.
Yeah. What do you say, Katie?
I said, we'll blame it on censorship.
Yeah, exactly. Apple is they're evil too. They got all sorts of antitrust. They're screwing over their app developers, of which I'm one because I own a software company, and they're screwing over the booksellers and doing all kinds of shady stuff. The point is, it's like that old saying, I think it was Voltaire that said it, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And when any company person gets too big, too powerful, government, whatever, it's just human nature that they're going to take advantage of their bully pulpit, and that's just the way it is. Okay. It's just the way it is. And so we should want a dispersed type of world where there's a bunch of small businesses. There's an ability, like with the states of the United States, there's an ability to vote with your feet. And if you think California or New York are oppressing you, then you can do what I did and move to Florida or Texas, like so many people have, and you can vote with your feet, and that's what you should be able to do, and that's what you can do with small businesses, but not with big tech monopolies. You can't vote with your feet, so there's no free market. There's no marketplace of ideas, marketplace of business, of where to put your money. It's unbelievable. It really is. But folks, let's just go around and wrap it up with any closing thought. Mostly this was slated to be about the election, right?
Right.
So maybe kind of focus on that, or economic impact and stuff like that. But let's just go around with a closing thought. Naresh, you want to start? You've been silent for a while. And by the way, I must tell you, Naresh is the author of a book called The Trump Book that he did when he got elected. And it was not, interestingly, it's not a pro-Trump book necessarily. It was just about Trump. And you got just vilified for writing that book, right, Naresh?
Absolutely vilified on Twitter, social media. Real life? No, not much in real life, but online and digitally, it was terrible. And even sales over the last 2 months have done very well. But anyway, my final thought is, first off, it seems that like 80%, not even 50%, I'm surprised, but a big chunk of the world thinks this election is over. And my final thought is, it's not over. Just because Fox News said it's over does not mean it's over. And I know there were block parties. I saw all sorts of videos in DC, San Francisco, California. This is not over by any means. And just sit tight for the next 4 to 5 weeks. I think we're going to see a lot of twists and turns. And don't just assume, even if you are a Republican or on the right, people have thrown in the towel there saying, congratulations, Biden, hopefully you do a good job.
Correct.
Don't listen to the lamestream news media.
Lamestream media, yes.
And as far as real estate goes, again, like I said earlier, because there's this huge concern about 1031 exchanges are going to be gone and Biden's going to raise taxes and do this and do that. I'm very optimistic about both of those Georgia candidates, Republicans, winning the Senate. But even if one wins, the Republicans hold the Senate, and it's Cocaine Mitch, as they call him, not Mitch Russo, obviously. But he's a tough cookie, and these tax increases, these 1031 exchange as it relates to real estate investing, and then all the ridiculous stuff, amnesty to 20 million illegals and packing the Supreme Court. You just don't have to worry about any of this stuff. It's the left is actually.
Naresh, you got to hold that cord. I'm telling you.
Oh yeah. Well, Democrats are actually in a very tough position, and they had a conference call a couple of days ago. I don't know if you guys read about it, but they lost a ton of seats in the local state legislatures, and they also have, so far, I think, have lost 8 seats in the House, and they're expected to lose anywhere from 10 to 15 seats now. So don't be pessimistic and just say that, we're going to become a communist country. I think we're in a better position, even if Biden wins, than, a communist country or even a 100%.
Well, I think so too. It takes a lot to screw up.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to happen overnight. There's going to be, just gradual shifts towards that direction. I think that's the way we like to scream about it. Yeah, it's not going to.
That's the thing. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Robert, any closing thoughts here? We'll wrap it up.
Well, let's just hope, if Biden does stay, I'm in California and I have a small business, we're going to see how it goes, because right now, the surrounding small business, I'm pretty good friends with them. And, we look at tactics of what to do to avoid, legally paying taxes. And one of the things that we do to remember in California, when you have a business, you got to pay for EDD and workers' comp. If you paid $100 to somebody, just $100, so just imagine if that person is not efficient enough to cover his cost, your business is already losing off the start. So what we try to do is that we try to hire them as individual contractors and avoid paying EDD.
And California won't let you do that anymore. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
So that's it. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate what you're saying, because I used to deal with it, and get yourself out of California. It took me years to do it, Robert, but I finally did it. I wanted to leave for 15 years, and I finally did. It was the best decision of my life. It really was. So good stuff. Katie?
I just want to leave you with the thought of this is no longer about Democrat, Republican. This is about democracy and our republic. And we just have to have faith. We have to go through the process of law. We have to hold on to that, so it's kind of I think it's up to us now to be the light, in the darkness out there.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. It's, folks, even if you got the outcome you wanted, you need to be concerned about the process, because it could happen to you next. Next time around, it goes the other way. And if we do not have a rule of law and a process that works, we got big problems, much bigger problems than 4 years with a sleepy, senile president. Okay.
Well, and look, we're not just after, Trump getting, back into the White House. That's not the ultimate goal. The goal is now, we want what made America so great to stay. So it's we just want the truth, whatever the truth may be.
Yep. Yeah. And remember this one, you can't handle the truth. That's such a great movie. But you're absolutely right. It's true. Mitch.
Yes. So first of all, Naresh, I just bought your book. Thank you
Thanks for plugging it.
There you go. Hey, Mitch, reading it. Let's let Robert get a plug in here. Robert, if you want to share your small business, or Katie, you do too. Anybody can. And Jason, you too, of course.
It's
Robert?
all right. I think I'm just gonna. I
don't
want
to help you pay your tax bill.
Yeah.
Okay, Mitch, go ahead.
No, I also just wanted to say that I agree with Katie and everything she just said. It's very, very simple. We live in a democracy. Let's keep it a democracy. Let's make that work. And I will throw one wrench into the mix here. Jason, I don't agree with you about Apple for one reason, because Apple created a powerful ecosystem that they built from scratch and spent billions to build. And I
enough.
believe they deserve the money that they collect. And if they don't, then people can leave and go to a different platform.
You're absolutely right. I agree with that. Anybody should be able to charge whatever they want and get their money back for all their R&D or development costs, for sure. But when the companies are so giant and there's not really a free market and they're restraining trade, and Apple has several big lawsuits over this exact thing right now, that's where I have a problem. That's what antitrust laws were designed for. They're just too big. I would be fine if it was the old Apple that was a smaller company and there was a marketplace of choice. But these choices are just evaporating from the market. Okay, I think we agree philosophically. It's just that the company's just too damn big. Okay?
Yeah, they're pushing the limits now. I agree with both of you. Like, yes, they spent it on the ecosystem, so they should be entitled to, getting that percentage or whatever. But, when they start going too far off the deep end to restrict trade or to manipulate the market of like an app or something.
Yeah.
We need to
Okay,
destroy the illusion of free markets and get back to the free market.
Well, by the way, let me just make a point on that before Jason goes on what Katie said.
Go ahead.
They've done a very good job, all these companies, of creating an illusion of a free market. And probably the best company at that of all is the one that used to have the slogan, "Don't be evil," that's totally evil, and that's Google. Okay,
Right.
Now called Alphabet. Why do you think they even named themselves Alphabet? Why do you think Google invests in all these total loser businesses? They spend a bunch of money to be in the hardware business, and they're always like a failure at everything. Like Google is the biggest failure company on earth, right? They suck at like so many things. They're just in one business, search and advertising. They're just throwing money at these things to deceive the regulators so that they don't have an antitrust problem, which now thankfully they finally do, because everybody's wised up a little bit. But I bet these antitrust allegations will just evaporate if Biden becomes president. That'll just go away because Biden will get a job for Hunter or something. Suddenly Hunter will work for Alphabet as a consultant for $2 million a year for doing nothing.
It'll happen. Yeah.
Anyway, Jason, it's all yours.
So my final thoughts are, it's kind of what I did. Election night, I was sitting there for hours and hours. The wifey was actually mad, like, why, what, like, enough of this, how are we going to do it? And I just got it depressing towards the end of the evening because I just saw where things were going and they couldn't call it. They went to sleep and stopped counting votes. I'm like, I just got so disappointed. The next morning, like I've got a fifth screen, in this room that's just dedicated for the news. And I just didn't watch it. Like I went into the rest of the week and just focused on what I can do, what my business is, my family, my plan to leave California, my plan to scale or exit any one of the companies I run, taking care of our clients. So I guess my final closing thought to us, the panelists here, if you will, impromptu panel this morning here, Jay, and anybody listening in or maybe watching this on the replay is, number one, subscribe to Jason's YouTube channel if you have not yet, because Hartman's awesome. And number two is focus on what you can control, because the voting's done, right? Guess it's done. I mean, except for the ballots that are being brought in through the back door. Voting's done. Now focus on what you can control. The outside factors, like if the wind starts blowing right now, it's too late for me to build a house, but I can control like how I manipulate things in here. So focus on yourself, your business, your family, and make those moves, like everybody said, about going in the direction of your beliefs. Like I don't believe California is a good place for me to run my companies and or raise my family anymore. So I'm going to be spending time and money making that move for the betterment of my family. I'm, my clients too, giving them good advice on which buildings and which properties to invest in, which to divest in. That's my final thought, is focus on yourself and what you can control. And then we'll see what happens in the next few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. You can only, you can only brighten your corner of the world, and don't spend your whole life cursing the darkness. It's just not worth it. Just light a candle and do what you can to make it better for yourself and for those that you care about. But the great idea about that is that in a truly capitalist system, which we do not have, okay, and we have not had for a long time, in that system, doing good for yourself does good for others automatically, even if you have no charitable intent whatsoever. because that's how capitalism works, and that's why it's such a beautiful system. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. But anyway, thank you all for being with us for over 2 hours. I think this is the longest live stream. They always go long. And thank you to all of our impromptu guests. Okay, none of you were planned except maybe Naresh. Naresh, you did mention yesterday you were going to come on, so that's great. But it's great. We're going to open it up more often for people to come on and just have the phone number out there so you can text it and get a link back. And Kevin, I know you were with us earlier and you had to go, but thanks to all of you for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. And I want to just have my little sound machine give you all a big hand.
Here, I got some for you too, Jay.
Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Bye. Thanks for having us, Jason.
It's my pleasure. Take care.